18, 19 when I was 18 or 19 to my early 20s, I started waking up again. I started remembering who I was. And then I also knew that I was a part of a team that many were incarnated that were just like me. And I knew that one day we would all network and we would all kind of come together as one and then, of course, do the work. And that's what's been happening. But from my memories within an off-world group known as Radiant Guardians. So there's different divisions of Radiant Guardians. We have Solar Warden, which is the basic interplanetary police force that pretty much patrols not only our solar system but also the Milky Way galaxy. And then, of course, we have Radiant Guardians, which is a even more advanced program that was actually designed by meta-terrestrials. We're talking about beings beyond the Galactic Federation. Some of these beings are known as the members of the Rock Confederacy, which they operate from Harmonic Universe number 4. So from Harmonic Universe number 4, occupying dimensions 10, 11, and 12, that's where these beings came from. And so what they did is they only picked about 100 different women on the planet. And these are women who had a very high concentration of advanced Lyran, Syrian, Pleiadian genetics, or what they call are the Rh negative factor. They also were very interested in the amount of mitochondria, which is similar to what Star Wars calls midichlorians, which is the powerhouse of the cell. So my mother was one of those 100. She does come from a lineage of royalty that could be traceable back to Spain and stuff. So her and like Princess Diana are of the same seed, in other words, and the Whiteheads, of course. But my mother was telling me that she was impregnated by these celestials. She called them angels, but she would tell me that she would be abducted at times, and she would be taken upon a mothership, a huge vessel where there were many different angels. She would call them angels, but what they were is that they were advanced extraterrestrials. And she would tell me stories about how they actually developed me. They created me in a petri dish, and then when it was time for me to be to be born, it's not for the chicken here. They put me back in her womb, but they did a lot of genetic splicing and modification, that was given to me by these advanced races. And I was also given an implant that was designed to track me because I was one of 100 individuals, and designed to overall protect me from the hazardous chemtrails. And in the event that members of the dark side would try to do something to me, my defense mechanism within my DNA would activate, and I would have access to X-Men abilities, and they would be toast. But luckily, they know about that, so they've always stayed away. even though they send members or agents to try to convert me several times, that didn't work. But overall, I just recently, within the last few years, I started getting memories of going off-world into planet Jupiter, where a vast intergalactic council has been there stationed, around Jupiter, representing a union of many galaxies. And so I remember being, going through the portal, being on Jupiter, and being being in the presence of all these different species, all kinds of races. And I just remember them telling us that we were like the chosen ones that were genetically developed by them in order to go help fight the war against this AI collective known as the Animus. So our job was extended beyond the galaxy and beyond the local universe. So we actually were designed to kind of restore and help these other universes that have been heavily afflicted by this AI war. And so what they did is they would genetically upgrade us to use anywhere from 60 to 65%. We weren't, I guess, ready enough to use 100 because that's like too much power. But even at 60, 65%, we were able to defy gravity. We were able to fly. We were able to control the elements. We were able to reduce or transform, rather, or convert our mass into pure energy and travel at the speed of light. We were able to duplicate, be at different places at once. That's what they call bilocate. We were able to do all kinds of stuff, and not to mention our bodies were indestructible. So I do have a lot of memories of, types of entities that we had to destroy in the process of liberating some of these other worlds in these other universes. And most of those were the black spiders, the black AI spiders, which have been a huge problem in the war against AI. That's one of the vessels that the AI have been using to pretty much, destroy many, many worlds and many, many galaxies. So I haven't yet accessed all my memories. I want to, I want to have a full recollection of all that. But as they do kind of erase those memories from us, and then they bring us back in time and within minutes of taking us. And I do remember having three missions because there were different occasions in my life from the age of 15 to the age of 19 where I would have missing time, where I would end up walking on the street, not knowing how I got there, where I came from, or what I did prior to being there. It was just like weird. So I guess, I've experienced that three times in my life. So just like any other, super soldier that has been used in these off-world groups, I guess they call it the 20 years and back. And for the most part, they do it about three times. And so, yeah, I'm actually excited about doing a regression. There's a few hypnotherapists that have reached out to me that are actually going to help me retrieve those memories in fullness. And that's actually going to be, I'm going to be able to write some of that in my next book.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. Like, do the memories come during deep meditation? Do they come spontaneously? You're in the shower or you're doing the dishes, they drop in? Because sometimes that's happens. You're doing something else and you just get something drop in. I was very curious to see how this information dribbled through to you.
It's either through meditation, but there are times where I get flashes while I'm driving, while I'm at the supermarket waiting in line, and all of a sudden I look autistic. People look at me and I'm just facing out into nothingness, and they're like, "Sir, you're next in your checkout." I'm like, "Oh, okay," it's because I'm getting these flashbacks. So yeah, they come around in both states of mind. Whether I'm meditating or in my wake state.
Because you must have this natural ability to be able to connect so easily. Yet a lot of people sometimes use plant medicines or some sort of psychedelic. And often in those experiences, they talk about the light beings, the angelics coming through, going up to the heavens, having these states of bliss where they feel connected to it all. Is that like the higher vibrational brain states that they're activating? And is that something that probably everyone can access, do you feel?
Absolutely. We all have the capacity of switching from the beta mind state or wavelength or frequency of mind to, alpha, theta, and then of course delta. Delta is where it's at. That's where the magic begins. People that have learned to access the delta wavelength of mind are people that are actually doing the supernatural. Everything that they do is supernatural.
Yeah. So this raising of the vibration, when a person takes themselves from, low vibrational information, a low vibrational life, and like a lot of people on the path, they're learning to, raise their vibration, whether that be physically, emotionally, mentally, the different aspects of our being, to then tap into higher vibrational information. Is that like the mechanics of how other people can learn to do this as well? Because a lot of people, a majority aren't interested, but for those people who are interested in tuning in more and connecting to higher levels of consciousness, is that sort of the mechanics of how they do it, do you feel?
Yeah, and then there's different techniques, many methods in which people could achieve those levels of consciousness. But it definitely starts with meditation. Meditation is key to access higher levels of awareness.
Right, because through the meditation, you learn to stop that beta level of the brain, right? The desynchronized scatter brain, get the brain focused, alpha and theta come through. So obviously the person can connect better. When we're getting this high level information, it can come from different sources. And so often people who are second wave souls naturally have this ability to be able to sort of connect into, and often they don't know whether it's ETs or whether it's their guardian angels or whether it's light beings. Do you feel like these light beings that are trying to assist humanity are almost scanning for the people whose intention is to try and connect and be a better version of themselves and be of service?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a huge effort by the higher dimensional beings who are really trying to connect with as many of us. And because we are raising our vibrational frequency, because we are doing the work, many of us are, getting the downloads now. Many of us are actually connecting with these, whether you call them angelics, celestials, or ETs. I mean, they're all pretty much one and the same. The gods of the Bible, I mean, the angels of the Bible, the gods of mythology, and the guardian ETs, or those that are the positive races, are all one and the same. Except that once you go into the higher levels of reality, then you have the realms of non-incarnates, which are considered like the angelics or the archangelics. But those that are in the incarnational process, whether they exist in the fourth dimensional level of reality, all the way to the 12, they're also considered angelics, or celestials.
Yeah, I love that idea that we're getting helped by our bigger brothers and sisters, so to speak, and guided.
Well, this might sound a little strange, but in a way, they are us. They're higher dimensional versions of us.
Yeah.
Including the archangelic archetypes. They all exist within us. We are the final manifestation of this long involutionary process from the top down, where we extended from the angelic or celestial kingdom. And so we're the final fruit of that. And that's why we're considered the chosen race.
Yeah.
And that's why they were told to serve us, because we're like, if people only understood the power that we have, the beauty of this advanced biological vehicle that we have, once we learn how to tap into our dormant DNA, it's game over. We become at the top of the chain in terms of like other extraterrestrial or metaterrestrial races. At that point, we surpass them all. Once we begin to even use 20 to 30%, because most of the extraterrestrial races have reached the plateau where they can't evolve beyond, in the physical, that is, beyond whatever their genetic program is. Well, we, on the other hand, were given a genetic program that was supposed to supersede and pass all of them into the higher realms of eternity, and that's what makes us different than all the other races out there.
It's pretty exciting, when you word it like that, because so we're getting all this help to sort of help us move out of 3D, as a collective, and start to move through this evolution of consciousness. But then it's like the planet or the galactics helping us as well, right? The Schumann resonance has been off the chart. There's been solar flares being emitted to the Earth to assist. Perhaps we could merge onto the solar flash and how that's going to assist, that shift in consciousness.
Absolutely. That's been predicted and prophesied about for thousands of years. In fact, many civilizations go through the solar flash, because of the fact that the galaxy is made out of these superhighway photonic energies of light that, kind of like a duff nut, they come from the center of the galaxy, and they, like a torsion field, they come from the bottom, and it's like a spin at the center, but it's like a duff nut. So there's many of those, and every time a solar system, because solar systems are also revolving around the galactic core, just like our planets revolve around the sun. So every time a solar system goes into these high level or high frequency photonic fields of energy, everything changes. They go into golden ages or golden eras because of the high frequency, and the transformation of the species takes place. So for instance, intelligences that exist in type 1 civilizations graduate to type 2 when they go through the photon band. Intelligence that exists in a type level 2 stellar civilization graduate to galactic level civilization, which is more advanced. And then, of course, galactic civilizations also graduate to universal and then cosmic, being the most advanced. So everything is being upgraded as we go through these photonic fields of energy.
So exciting. So if we can double down into the solar flash and the solar flare, because you've got a lot of great information in a couple of the interviews, people in our group would like to know what to expect. There's 3 choices, potentially some beings going on ships, some staying behind. And can you explain to us the levels of certain souls on the planet right now, and what it looks like when the solar flash occurs?
So basically, the Earth in ancient times used to exist in 12 dimensions. So when the solar flash occurs, the cosmic currents, or the circuits that used to connect us to these higher dimensional spheres, are going to activate. And when they do, depending on how old your soul is, that's where you're going to end up. So some of us are actually going to have the opportunity to go beyond the 5th dimensional Earth. So there's going to be different levels of upgrades. You're going to have the new souls that are evolving from the bottom up. Those are what I call in my book terrestrials, as opposed to the celestials that are coming from the top down. They're going to be going up in increments. So they're going to be living for a few hundred years, They're still going to be living in a better world. Perhaps that's what they call the fourth dimensional world, fourth dimensional civilization. But they're not going to have like amazing powers, like superhuman powers. And then the star seeds or the volunteer souls that are down here in the millions now are going to be going into even higher levels of, or upgrades, where they're going to actually have these superpowers because they're going to be existing for the fifth dimension while still popping into the fourth dimension. So to the fourth dimensional perception of those people in the fourth dimension, they're going to appear to be like superhuman. And then there's going to be souls that are actually going to be going into the sixth dimension, 7, 8, and 9. So the higher you go in dimension, the more power, the more abilities you're going to have. So there's going to be different levels of upgrades. So it's going to go back to how it existed in ancient times, where you're going to have mortals, you're going to have wizards, you're going to have demigods, superhumans, mutants, and powerful gods and goddesses above them all.
Yeah. So in terms of like choice and, our free will and our contracts, are we, some of us going to ships, because that's what you've mentioned in the past. Some of us are contracted perhaps to stay behind to help the fourth dimensional souls continue with the civilization and all of the consciousness teaching, so it does continue on its correct path.
Yes. Some of us are going to go back to our home planet because those planets weren't destroyed. For those of us that are down here whose home planet was destroyed, this is our new home. But some of the star seeds are going to actually go back to their to be who they were before they incarnated or before they volunteered. So whether they were commanders of different ships, they're going to go back and resume that position. After the ascension. Yeah.
And so
most are going to stay here, though. Most, it's just a small number that are going back to their ships.
Yeah. So when it happens, is it like a flash, and we all know that it's happened? Like, are we going to feel differently? Like, we're going to move out of that, those lower frequencies within our own vessel? Like, how are we going to feel, and what can we expect on the day of the flash? Because you're saying that it's coming soon, which is exciting for the shift.
Well, depending on what goes into the photon field first, like if it's the sun or the earth, we're either going to have 3 days of pure light, or it's going to be blinding. We're going to have to stay home to kind of like assimilate to the new energies as our body becomes upgraded. If the sun goes before the earth, then we're going to have 3 days of darkness, and then that's when we're also going to be required to kind of sleep as much as we can so that we could adjust to the new vibrational energies in the new earth that is going to be fully intact when we get up in those 3 days. And then we're going to have these new modified bodies that are going to be less denser, and then we're going to have telepathy, telekinesis, and it's going to be a much better world.
It's going to be so exciting. I mean, people are going to be wondering what the heck's going on, really, if you're not awake. What can they expect? They're going to be obviously having, getting triggered because the darkness or the light.
Some of the things people think might get them into trouble, right? You know what I mean? So all of a sudden there's telepathy and people can work this out. It's probably even where some of the, let's call them older souls, are holding stable for these newer souls to understand, right, what's happening and let them know that everything's okay. Because they're having this great awakening, let's say, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so for those that don't have the abilities, they're actually going to be humans that are going to upgrade into the fourth dimension, and they are going to live for a few hundred years without any illnesses, without any diseases, because of the fact that, they're going to be healed. The solar flash is going to heal them in an instant. Yeah.
So on the day-to-day, though, like, do people still need to work on healing the unhealed parts of themselves, their emotional traumas, their underlying self-limiting beliefs, that programming that they get through society, through their childhood, that density that's dulling their light, because a lot of, I notice, starseeds have a rough soul contract, there's a lot of fine detail up the back of that thing, and they come in all motivated and inspired to help the world. But when you move into 3D physical, right, you've got a tough situation, whatever that may be for them in their childhood. So they still need to work on that, right? This is not like a free ticket to ascension, so to speak.
Oh yeah, the work still needs to be done, because in order for us to have the flash, we have to be fully clear channels. And that is by doing away with all the emotional baggage, with all our trauma, all our fears. We have to be in no fear. We have to go from having no fear and no more trauma to just being in the presence and in our power as a clear channel. Because what's going to happen is that when our dormant DNA activates, we're going to be manifesting at the speed of light. So whatever we think will actually come into reality. So that's why it's very key and important to begin to control your mind at this time. What you think throughout the day, how you're feeling throughout the day, will determine, your new reality when the shift takes place.
So there's rumors about an announcement about all the corruption that's been playing out on the planet. And, we were just thinking about that announcement, if that's true. What's your opinion on that? Do you feel like it would have a negative effect on humanity before the solar flash? Or is it a good thing to help them, awaken to see behind the veil?
So the external technologies are only going to be applicable in the fourth dimensional Earth. However, in the fifth dimensional Earth, we're going to begin to use our own inner technology. So instead of using cell phones, we're going to be telepathic. Instead of using cars or vehicle transportations, we're going to be teleporting. For those that make the fifth and sixth dimensional Earth, we are going to be using our own internal technology. And also, what I was saying is that all the technology that big tech has been developing is a mimicking of our own inner technology. So, that's where they get all these concepts like replicators, teleport. What do they call the teleportation devices and all that stuff? We all have it in us to do all that and much more.
So exciting. We wanted to ask about like ETs and in particular Palladian beings and Octarian beings, because a lot of us here are connecting with them and we have great communication with them on ships. And so what can we expect, in the coming years with the galactic connection, in particular with like those type of beings? And have you had any experiences in a physical form with those beings?
A few of the Pleiadians have interacted with me in the physical several times throughout my life. Very nice people, full of love and energy. They look similar to us. In fact, I think they are the closest extraterrestrial race that resemble us physically, to the point where if they were to take off their spacesuits and put on jeans and shirt, they could literally walk down the street and nobody would know that they're Pleiadians. I've had a few encounters with them. Telepathically and in dreams, I had encounters with Arcturians, which serve as the Midway Council for, Andromeda, for our galaxy and many other galaxies. Very, very highly advanced. The Arcturians are. They're considered a ninth dimensional collective. And they're also working from behind the scenes with the Earth Alliance. A lot of these extraterrestrials that are leading the way in the liberation of the Earth are Pleiadian, Arcturian, and Sirian. And of course, the Andromedan Council is also here assisting us because what's happening is a refusion of a super galaxy that used to exist, long ago before our galaxy was thrown off into this lower octave. When our galaxy was once part of the M31 Andromedan system, we were part of a super galaxy. So what we're experiencing now, what we're witnessing, is a reunion of the Milky Way with Andromeda, which is going to be part of the restoration as well, as the Milky Way and the Andromeda are once again reconnecting to the eternal life stations of the central Mother Universe, which is awesome.
Yeah, so exciting. So a lot of people feel like they're a part of a hybrid program, donating their DNA for hybrids. Do you have any information on this? Are you a part of a program? And will we ever meet these hybrid children? Are they going to be integrating on our planet? What can we expect in this realm?
Well, there's two programs. One of them has been conducted by the dark side, and that has to do with creating some sort of a hybrid between humans and greys, because as you guys know, greys are a dying race because they resorted to transhumanism long ago and cloning. So instead of reproducing naturally, they were reproducing through, cloning and cybernetic technology, biotechnology, and so they've lost their soul. So in an effort to try to save the race, they created these programs where they're creating these hybrids between humans and greys or sadists. Also behind this negative hybrid program, we have the mantis and the insectoids. The insectoids are a huge part of this negative hybridization program that's been going on. The mantis come from the planetary system of Mitra, which is actually in the the galaxy of Andromeda. And then working with them are members of the Zeta Reticula systems, like the Nabu, and the Ebens, and those are the negative extraterrestrials that are in charge of these hybridization negative programs, which are actually they're trying to create, how can I say it? They're trying to destroy the God gene in these people. But there's also the positive programs, and the positive programs have to do with different races that are actually competing to see, which superhuman or which program ends up producing the ultimate Uberman, or what they call the Superman. And that has to do with, the mixing of many advanced celestial races, as they're like genetically splicing us and creating, more upgraded version of us to see how powerful we could become when the solar flash takes place. But those are part of the positive programs. I've never been a part of that. Like I said, the program that I was a part of had to do with the idea of only giving me a mixture of advanced celestial genetics. So I do have like DNA of Michael the Archangel. I do have, DNA of the Azurites and DNA of the Central race as well.
Yeah, because you hear about people activating more of their DNA, and someone who isn't on this path would go, there's only 2 strands of DNA. I don't know what you're talking about. But if you go researching a little bit more, I mean, you go beyond 12, which I love, right? Like, I've heard of 12 before, but I was listening to other interviews that you've done, and you go beyond that, right?
Some people actually have 24, and some people actually have 36 strands, and a very small number of us, have up to 48 strands. Yeah. So some of us are going to go beyond 12 strands. That's going to be fascinating.
And to put it really simply, is it because humans are made up of a mix of, let's call it 12 major species that have gone into the human? How do we quickly and simply help someone kind of get their head around how can you have 12, let alone, beyond that?
Well, humans are actually made out of a mixture of all the races in the multiverse. See, what started off as 100, okay, so basically going back to billions of years ago, in an effort to put an end to this AI war, they needed to create a new guardian race. So what the founders of universes did, they held a meeting on a planetary sphere known as Uversa, which is equivalent to what we call Armatena, the 12th dimensional Earth, to create, to begin what is called the intergalactic genetic experiment. And what that was to bring or combine all the genetics of all the different celestial humanoids into one genome. And what started off with millions of races contributing their DNA to 100 races, eventually led to the contributing of DNA to 24 races, from those 100 to 24, consolidating it even further. And then those 24 races contribute their DNA to create the 12 super races. And then, of course, that's where the concept of the 12 tribes of Israel comes into place. And then those 12 races gave us their DNA. And that's when we became the pinnacle of that, the completion of this intergalactic genetic experiment. So by virtue of that, we actually carry the greatest diversity of genetics that no other species could match. And that allows us to have a wide range of emotional pitches, which is pretty much what's going to have us access our power when we activate the dormant DNA. It is through our emotions and our state of consciousness that we're going to control the flow of the energy that's going to be going through our bodies when we become superhuman.
I love it. Emotions are the key. I probably didn't have a really good cry for, let's say, 20 years when I really started to become awake. I think probably in the last 3 years I've cried more than I did for 20 years before that, because I'm learning to get out of the head and into the heart, and it makes a massive difference. And being here in Australia, perhaps you could comment on the Australian Aboriginals. I often hear a lot about the purity of their genetics, because Australia, they call it the bottom end of the world, it's so far from everyone. And the purity of the genetics. Have you ever heard much about Australia, and in particular the Aboriginals?
Well, from what I understand is all the Indian races, like the Navajo, the Cherokee, the Mayan, the Aboriginals of Australia, they all they're extraterrestrials, by the way. They come from advanced civilizations. Is there a genetic connection between all these races? I'm not sure, but I do know that they do come from other worlds, because they're very spiritually oriented. They don't depend on external technology like we do. So they lean towards a spiritual, feminine way of life where, they do things more where they're connected to the elements, where they honor the sacred earth and stuff like that. That's all originated in Lyra. The original Lyran races were actually like that. They didn't have external technology. They were a magical race. And I think that the indigenous people of this earth are not indigenous, but the tribes, the Indians and stuff like that, are those that are considered Cherokee, Navajo, Mayan, have all that in them, and that's why they're part of that magical system.
Mm. Yeah, we're
But I
visiting.
really don't know much.
Yeah, we're visiting
Depends.
Norfolk Island, which is said to be the land of Lemuria in a month's time, and we're excited to go back there and tune into the land and see that that civilization where it was and be reminded of that. Do you have anything to talk about with the Lemurian and the Atlantean civilization and how they had a huge impact on the planet?
Yes, those were are actually our ancestors originated in Lemuria and Atlantis. The original 12-strand DNA Terranusian race that was created by the 12 races that contributed their DNA to create the super Guardian race actually took place in Lemuria. So I wouldn't be surprised if like the Aboriginals of Australia are actually the actual descendants who carry that pure line of the original 12-strand DNA Terranusian race. I wouldn't be surprised,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So you talk also about the epicenter, Earth being the epicenter of the new galactic hub. Is that like a intergalactic station? Why is it that you're getting this information? Is it because the solar flare's here and the DNA of the human race?
It's both, because not only are we the amalgamation and potpourri of all the extraterrestrial races out there in the cosmos, but the Earth is also the most advanced. How can I say it? It is the culmination of all the seedings. All the life in the multiverse exists in one spot here on the Earth. And many could back this up. The fact that the Earth is a living cosmic library means that the Earth has actually been designed by the higher intelligences to actually be the new headquarters world, or the new epicenter, where our entire solar system, literally upon the ascension, is going to be relocated at the center of our galaxy. And as our galaxy re-emerges with the Andromeda galaxy, that's going to be the center of the cosmos. So we're going to be at the center. We're going to be now the hub of the new, cosmic era that we're going to be entering.
Yeah, so exciting. So you talk about the Type 2 stellar civilization. So can you paint us a picture as to what we could expect when that all transfers over? Maybe an estimate of time in your opinion of when the solar flash is going to happen, and perhaps when we move into that type, is it 2 stellar civilizations? Is that how you call it?
Yeah, Type 2 is what we were during the times of Atlantis. We were actually harnessing energy from our sun and other suns, or what we call 0 point, but beyond planetary. And I believe that upon the ascension, as you must have been reading my book, because I talk about that.
I haven't yet.
Oh, you haven't?
But I have ordered it this morning.
Okay. So upon our transition into the Terra Earth, we're going to go directly. We're going to bypass the interplanetary system and become a stellar system, because of the fact that also within the private sector we've already reached stellar status. We're already going across the entire galaxy, and that's the reason why we're going to go into a stellar civilization upon the shift overnight, and that explains the releasing of all this advanced interstellar technologies of light to the general public, and that's part of the disclosure as well.
So is it just a name, or is it physically going to be obviously brighter, more advanced, but spiritually connected with love and joy? Is that what we can expect? Like when we go into this Type 2 stellar civilization?
Yes, because it's already there existing. The Terra dimensional Earth is already existing in Harmonic Universe number 2. So there's going to be a translation from Harmonic Universe number 1 into Harmonic Universe number 2 in a split second, in a blinking of an eye, as they call it. And when we do that, it's going to be a whole different world.
Yeah.
So we're not going anywhere. It's still existing here in the same space at the same time. We're just shifting, realities. That's all we're doing.
And as us as individuals have this shift and change, we learn to raise our vibration, anchor more light. Can you talk a little about how we start to integrate the different aspects of our oversoul? I've heard you talk about we exist in different timelines and different dimensions at the same time, and it really starts to bend the mind, particularly as you start to really try and day to day live from the heart, kindness, compassion, empathy, understanding. You see these people and you're just in that forgive them, Father, they know not what they do space. In the beginning you're triggered, right? It's like, oh my gosh, these people. And then afterwards you realize, hey, it's all good, it's all good. But how does that tie in with then what's happening for the oversoul? Because we're progressing at many levels, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So what's going to be happening is more of an multi-dimensional integration when the ascension takes place, because there is scientific evidence that there are parallel universes where we have different versions of ourselves, where we're slightly different in every universe. So for instance, every action that you took, if you would have done the opposite to that, that version exists already. So every action that you take creates a parallel version. Because reality, because we are undergoing conversion when the ascension takes place, we're all going to be reconnecting with every aspect of ourselves. And that's the definition of this infinite limited consciousness integration. Yourself, the less you're going to be triggered by outside circumstances and those that are unawakened. It's not going to bother you anymore because you're it's almost like you're going to be operating on different levels of reality once you begin to only focus on your own vibration.
And this is what I really loved about listening to some of your interviews to prepare for this, the positivity of the message. Because often people can get caught in, what happened way back when, with different types of the Orion group, the reptilians, the this, the that, and go round and around in a circle. And it's interesting, but what I love through listening to so many of the different interviews is the pattern of there is an actual thing that people can do day to day to help them to move towards ascension. And then, of course, in a day to day, like, let's talk about when you're on this, like, moving towards ascension, day to day, you're happier, right? You're more content, more fulfilled. Perhaps, you're seeing yourself to have this beautiful energy about you. And I love that saying, by their works you shall know them. You're obviously a living representation of that. Let's inspire people a little about being that best version of themselves.
I agree. And that's what we as a community of light workers are doing worldwide. We're leading the way through example. our energy is contagious. Our energy is uplifting the planet. The more we align with our, higher heart chakra, our higher purpose, our mission, the more we help the collective. Because, ultimately, the universe, how can I say it? Since we are all different aspects of the universe wants to make sure that you, as a micro version of the universe, is in alignment with your higher self. Because in order for the universe to continue expanding as one giant neural network, we have to expand because we're all interconnected, and that's how everything works.
Yeah. So are you communicating with an alliance team at the moment? Do you sit in meditation and connect to a ship? Are you remote viewing your consciousness there? What are you actively doing in that regard?
I've lately been working on a ship called the New Jerusalem ship, where we have different members from different galaxies that are actually stationed there. The New Jerusalem is actually leading the way. We have other motherships that are also helping us, or biospheres, because they're huge. Some of them are as big as continents. We have the Capricorn ship, which is also assisting us. We have the Athena mothership, and then of course the New Jerusalem is leading the way. So I work with the New Jerusalem ship.
And what's the intention of the ship as a whole? Is there different areas and departments that are obviously working to help guide humanity? What's your thoughts on what their intentions are?
There's different functionaries within the ship, but the overall purpose of it is to help make sure that the ascension is secured, because like I said, they are preparing the Earth to be the hub of the multiverse, and that divine agenda cannot be thwarted. And that's why these huge motherships are here in place. They're actually the ones that are holding off the stargates, because the AI god is trying so hard to come in. It's trying, through CERN, the Darkettes were trying to open up portals for many years. So the biospheres are actually here to assist us in that. They're making sure that nothing comes in through the portals this time, because we're at the finish line, and they just want to make sure that the divine plan unfolds on the Earth as it is everywhere else in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So are you visiting the ship? Are you aware of traveling in your astrals, or can you remote view your consciousness there? Or are you physically going there?
No, it's all done in the astral when I sleep.
Yeah. And are you remembering that when you get back?
Yes. Yeah, that's how I get a lot of my updates, and then I put out the content for others to know.
Yeah, beautiful. That's fantastic.
So when we talk about these different behind-the-scenes agendas that are playing out, we had a question from Nino about the Emerald and the Luciferian covenants. Do they tie into the agenda that's playing out right now, or is that sort of more old timeline?
Well, there's two covenants. The covenant that the Darkettes have been serving is the Luciferian Manifesto, which has to do with the Order of the Black Sun, which is Saturn. And then there's the Covenant of Light, known as the Seal of Palator, which was signed by the Guardian races that belong to the Emerald Order. So as I speak, as of November 2021, 9 months ago, 10 months ago now almost, the Luciferian Covenant was replaced by the Seal of Palator and the Emerald Order. So our planet is no longer controlled by the Cabal. And that explains why the White Hats have been, having the upper ground ever since.
Should we all celebrate?
Because we're going to be witnessing a reunion with our galactic community and our Star Brothers very, very soon. And it's definitely going to happen within the next hopefully few years. I would say by no later than 2028.
Yeah, and have you got any intel on first contact? Because a lot of people have been told put your hand up to offer that frequency to connect with our brothers and sisters from the stars, and it happening to people individuals around the world, rather than a government kind of show. What's your thoughts or intel on that?
Well, that's why there's been many appearances in the last few months. That's why high officials like Paul Hellier from the. Hold on, let me connect my laptop is about to die. I just want to make sure I don't lose you guys, so I'm just going to plug it in. That's why Paul Hellier from the Advanced Aerospace Canadian department came forward, as well as Asham, what's his name, the ex-Israeli head of the space station. Ahmed or something, he also came forward. So that's all part of the disclosure. They're actually working as the people who are actually kind of trying to break the iceberg so that it all eventually comes out.
Yeah.
But they already introduced it, and it went on mainstream media where they talked about the Galactic Federation and stuff. So
Mm.
it's all being prepped by the Federation to bring forth to school.
Yeah, so exciting.
information you'd love to get out there that you feel is important for people? Where can they best follow you?
I'm mainly active on Instagram. I do have an automatic post with Facebook. However, I don't really use Facebook as much of it as I do Instagram. So my Instagram is Project Restoration Zion 1. It's all one word. And I have only one account. All the others are fake. So I have hundreds of fakes.
You've
But
got a
just
few
my
fakes on there, I saw. You follow
I
few
do,
people.
and they keep popping up every day with new and new accounts. It's horrible. You could also, under the Mystic Arts, or I can give you the link, the mysticarts.org. I'm teaching a starseed cosmology course, which is really advanced. I go deep into the dimensions, the different star races, their characteristics and qualities to see who you identify with, to actually figure out where your lineage comes from. Some of us are a mixture of different races. But I also teach methods and tools and techniques that will actually help you access your multidimensional self. I do have some spots available in my November class. For those that are interested in taking my course, it is definitely an activator.
Amazing. We'll get the links and drop it below. But yeah, on behalf of all of us, Pete and Roxy, and the Galactic Ambassadors watching on today, thank you so much for all of your work, your wisdom, and thank you for coming and sharing all of your knowledge with us.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Lots of love and blessings to you and your family. And thank you so much for working so hard, like to spread the word, to help awaken people and further encourage and activate the star seeds. Like, we really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.